With that, I want to invite the first two speakers for a fireside chat. The first speaker is my boss, so I can't speak anything bad about him. This is Gil Shwed, founder and CEO of Checkpoint. Checkpoint is celebrating these days 30 years in the market, and I'm sure he had to embrace change all these years, but we will talk about it. And alongside with him, Asaf Kochan, president and co-founder of Sentra. He's also the former commander of 8200, and because you by now know that the whole industry is very small and we were all there, so he's also kind of our commander-in-chief. So welcome, Gil and Asaf, to the stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dorit. Hi.
Hi. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. And first of all, happy birthday to Checkpoint.
Thank you.
And good luck. Just decided to begin this conversation with the Colonial Pipeline attack, which nowadays it's just over 2 years since it happened. Kind of a quick reminder: a bad actor hijacked a VPN, went into the business network. Colonial Pipeline didn't really understand whether there's a connection between the business and operational, and it shut down the operation network. Outcome: state of emergency. 17 states in the US were under kind of massive influence. Millions of people affected. It affected consumers. Looking backwards 2 years, in your perspective, what were the lessons learned, and has anything really changed?
It's a good question. I think the awareness is high to cybersecurity. The investment keeps being high, and I think we all know that because we are part of the industry. And we are, I think, evolving the level of security. Has anything really changed? I can say that it's really changed. I think we still, the grid that connects all the systems, or not the systems, the grids that's connected, and I'll explain what the grid in a second, is still not secure in most cases. I think if you look at most organizations, they secure the data center at the core and kind of leave the grid, all these hundreds and thousands and even tens of thousands of stations that are connected to it in a very low level of security. I think that our systems still are work in isolation from one another, and I think still big parts of our industry offer or deploy security in more of a detect and remediate mode rather than prevention of the attacks themselves. So I think there's still a long way of what we can do to elevate the level of security.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would just in that regard add that this was, it was a sophisticated attack, it was a substantial one, but I think it was a tipping point whereby ransomware was since then looked or observed as a national security issue. It's not just the businesses who have to take care of it. Without the help of government, without the guidance of government, without intel coming in, without support, professional support, it's really hard for a company to make these decisions. And I think this kind of event marked kind of a tipping point. And clearly in the US, new agencies and new protocols were brought in, and I think this also changed reality. One more thing which I've been observing is, the tendency to get stuck on. One of the tactical lessons there is the inability to segregate between the business and the operational. And part of it is because of the fact that a lot of the infrastructure is old infrastructure, which in many cases is unpatched. It wasn't designed to deal with cyber threats. So just adding to what you add,
Sure.
I would comment that. Generative AI is kind of the buzz thing, which is, everyone's talking about generative AI, and obviously it's a disruptive event. It came in rapidly, and I would ask you at the current moment and in the near future and the far future, whether it's a curse or a bless to cybersecurity.
It's a good question. I don't know if it's a curse or... First, I think I'll say our job. Our job in cybersecurity is not to say what's good or bad to the world, is to secure the world. And I think the approach that works for Checkpoint, since we started to say connectivity is good, the internet is amazing, it will change our life, our job is to secure it. And it sounds obvious, but many security professionals think, or the kind of the old thinking of security is what not to do, is how to stop things. And I think our job is, everybody that's in technology, is to embrace technologies, to move forward. And definitely on the last 30 years, we've seen 2 or 3 huge revolutions that changed our lives completely, not just changed technology, but changed the way we live. And I think it's all thanks to the advance in technology. So our job is to embrace that. I think in general, generative AI has a huge potential. Again, you never know that. We're kind of in an inflection point today, and when you're in the middle of inflection point, we never know if it will be a huge revolution or if it will be a nice technology. I believe it will be a big revolution. It has the potential. And I think overall, it's a good revolution to the world. Now, in cybersecurity, there are many, many risks. Now, if before we said that any kid can be technical and become a hacker, now it becomes much easier. And now the level of sophistication of attacks that can be generated with generative AI is much, much higher. For us, the defenders, also all the AI tools give us huge amount of opportunity. I mean, in Checkpoint, the brain of our system is called Threat Cloud. And in Threat Cloud now, there's around 75 security engines that prevent different types of attack. Over 40 of them are now AI-based. Systems that it took us hundreds of many years to build, we can build now in months. And people can, pilot them and check them within a matter of days, because they ask AI tools to create conclusions, to analyze data and get to things that before it was a huge amount of work. So I think overall AI is a good thing to our world, and I think we should embrace it and we should use it for us, it's for the good, it's to prevent the attacks.
Thanks. Gil, these events are an opportunity to kind of do a refresh and update and look at the current trends, which we should all kind of carefully observe. Within the landscape, what are you identifying as the major current cybersecurity trends, both in offense and defense?
I think in offense, we definitely see that what we call 5th generation cyber attacks, we kind of coined this term 4 or 5 years ago, have now become the reality and the norm. We're talking about ransomware. If ransomware attack 5 years ago was, we encrypt your lawyer's computer and demand $300, not that it's good, but it's a simple, straightforward attack. Today, we see this ransomware attack. Map the customer, map the target network, take control over an entire network, and demand $14 million. That's real-world examples. So, I mean, the attacks become far more sophisticated. They are very, very hard. They use a lot of zero-day exploits. They are polymorphic. It's hard to identify them by traditional patterns. And our job on the defender side or the prevention side is to stop these attacks. Now, there's many things we need to do better. First, the solutions needs to be far more comprehensive. So I see consolidation in our industry, and not just because of economical reason, which we will also see based on the change in the current economy, but based on the fact that we need solutions that are simpler, easier to manage, that are more comprehensive, that work together. And what we invest the most, and I think is the biggest change that we'll see, is the collaborative element of cybersecurity system. We just saw here the previous presentation from the Interpol talking about databases, we've shared information and so on. That's not enough. We need to take that action in real time and translate it to prevention, because today all the different security subsystems work in isolation. And almost every case that we see, there was a sign for the attack, there was some system that identified it, but all the other systems didn't cooperate, didn't know that, and failed to prevent it. And I think if we take that collaborative element and make our different parts of the security subsystem work together, I think we can get the level of prevention and the level of security to a much higher level.
Thank you.
What do you think? What's the...
Yeah, I'm getting there in a moment, because the next question is the one I'm going to kind of hop in. It relates to the cloud and to the journey to the cloud. This is a mega trend. And nowadays we see not just information technology kind of moving to the cloud rapidly, but we also see operational OT moving to the cloud. And this is kind of becoming the most kind of basic layer of infrastructure. Checkpoint has kind of, the flag of Checkpoint is around prevention from its very early days. When you look at this massive movement to the cloud and the consolidation of IT, OT, elements like these in the cloud, what, in your perspective, would be the most effective, not way, approach to go and build kind of a strategy around it, of how to protecting it?
So I think today, first in the cloud, we need to do a super job in defending it. It's a huge, huge risk to security by many, many ways. All the attacks that we knew how to handle or stop in the traditional networks, the level of risk in the cloud is far higher. You know, if you leave a server unattended on your data center because you reconfigure it, because you forget something, and you do it for a few hours, few days, nothing happens because there's many, many layers that protect it. When you put it on the cloud, if it's within minutes or seconds, it can be hijacked because it's on the public network, accessed by everyone. So if I leave my password on the desk, not here, but in my office, again, nothing happens. If I leave my password and somebody sees it and my data is on the cloud, somebody will hijack it immediately. And I think we see it on all the attacks that we see on the cloud every day. So the approach in the cloud first should be much tighter to security. I think many people believe that they can rely on the cloud providers. And the cloud providers, by the way, do an amazing job protecting their own infrastructure. They give some tools, but they leave the responsibility for us, the people who build systems, to protect ourselves from us. So we need to do a better job. We need to use advanced systems like we use in the data center on the cloud. We need far more consolidation because the cloud, we have all the elements that we have in the traditional network, plus additional elements like serverless functions and data that's shared with others. It's far more sophisticated to secure the cloud, and mainly we need to take the approach not just of identifying the assets that we have, but really tightening up security and preventing the attacks. And I think that's the approach which we should take. It's not easy, it's a long way, but I think it's worth it. But you're from the cloud business, so what do you think?
So I disagree basically with the fact that the cloud is less safe than the legacy on-prem environments. Based upon my experience, I think that what's unique about the cloud is, first of all, from a business aspect, not a security, that it's today the only way to unlock the potential of data with a vast amount of data. And when it comes to security, the cloud was designed to deal with security threats. It has extra layers of applications and platforms which can be added on it on demand. And many of the legacy kind of on-prem environments, some of them, the equipment goes 3 decades back. Equipment wasn't designed to deal with cyber threats, extremely vulnerable. In many cases, it's unpatched. So in this sense, I think that the cloud is an amazing opportunity. And because at the end of the day, bad actors and breaches are around data and are around sensitive data. If you'll put a piece of sensitive data, it might be IP, customer data, source code, whatever. Bad actors will get there. They smell it, they tunnel themselves in, they find it. I think the most effective approach when it comes to the cloud would be to identify within the cloud the key assets, the key data assets you want to keep, your top secrets, your top business enablers, and make sure that they are protected. And in this sense, I think there's a slight shift from dealing mainly with prevention and moving to pre-positioning yourself to an event that you'll be breached. You want the bad actors or someone stupid who just didn't configure something well to not be able to get to these valuable assets. And the cloud technology enables it. A strong data-centric approach enables you to identify, discover, understand the security posture and remediate it. So this would be kind of my approach. We have 1 more minute, so I have a kind of semi-personal question. So, within this audience, highly busy people with a very hectic schedule under tremendous stress, and you're running, one of the cornerstones of cybersecurity companies in the world, very successful enterprise. How do you, from your personal view, how do you maintain clarity of thought, freshness? How do you clean your head and make sure that under all the stress, you have a clear mind and you're fresh?
I think first we all have to take some time and think and just isolate. I think actually the last few years have taught me some things because we worked in isolation, we worked at home and by the way, when we ask our employees why do we keep working from home and like the hybrid environment, say because they have less distraction and they can concentrate. So that's actually kind of interesting. So for me during COVID time, I used to take my bicycle and go around the area for hours, listen to podcasts and think about many different things, or listen to music and think about my own things. And now when we are back to the office, it's traffic jams. You tend to spend every day half an hour when you can't do much but listen and think and relax. So that's kind of what we need to do. And I think we always need to take that time and think what we're doing.
I would totally agree. We're just at the end of time. For me, it's finding these shrines which I can center myself and anchor myself to. It will be mainly, in my case, sport, family, and I love movies, so I spend much of time watching movies, besides doing all the other stuff of work. So I wanted to thank you, and it's been an intriguing conversation. Looking forward to meeting you in the future in such events and beyond. And have a successful rest of the week, dear audience. Thank you, Gil.
Thank you very much, Asaf. Thank you.
Come on,